Washington.
Very near Seattle. Welcome, welcome, welcome in. We're happy to have you at Duzie Live. We are coming in this weekend. We just got back from an amazing time of camping with our family. We are out in a rustic walk-in campground in beautiful nature. And it was
beautiful.
Great views, great times, chilling out, having nice campfires.
So if you would, as you join in, please go into the chat. We welcome you into the chat just to say where you're coming from. Not like I'm coming from my living room, but what
you can say that detail if you want.
What state, anything, let us know. And Lynn Payne is the first one
number one.
in.
She comes in. Howdy, Lynn, coming from the Netherlands. Welcome in, Lynn. You are our first in the chat space.
Matt's coming in second. Megan is coming in third.
Yay, Megan!
Welcome, Megan. From Sheffield.
Oh, with your mom still. Okay, that's great.
Missed you this morning, Megan.
And Matt Taylor is coming in from the UK. He is a double whammy guy. He came in this morning for Duzie Live, and he's here as our guest. We're going to be featuring Matt very soon here. Christian Haben, welcome in from Germany. And Yoaz coming in from the Netherlands. And Matt is still in the UK. Thank you so much. We can see that there's a number more of you, and you are completely welcome not to type
Jacob
in the chat, but it's always better when you do type in the chat. Jacob Faulkner, San Diego. Thank you. My hair is in transition. Here's where it is so far.
My hair is not in transition. This is where it is so far and probably for all eternity.
Jessa, Madam Brown is in the house. Good afternoon.
Rainy
Jamaica.
It's rainy here in the Seattle area as well.
And Lynn says, I'm sure you will not be disappointed to hear that it's raining here, Dan. That's right. It rains a lot also in the Netherlands, where we have our camp every summer, and we're always geared for rain.
Hey, today we're looking at the whole
Micaela is in the house, also a featured guest today.
Today we're looking at the whole area of how to be fully alive as a single. And that's not just about being single, but being an individual. I think oftentimes we get sort of this mixed message, especially in the Christian arena, that you are complete when you get a husband or when you get a wife. And if you look at 1 Corinthians chapter 7, you see a very different picture of what Paul is writing. He's actually saying, I wish everyone was like me, which is single, but not everyone has that gift, which is like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Single or double, those are gifts. It's very interesting. And what we're looking at today is not so much this is how you're single until you're a double or whatever. It's basically, how do you learn to love yourself? How do you learn to have self-care and listen to what's going on in you?
Yeah.
It's very hard to love others if you don't love yourself. But sometimes we get the priorities wrong. That's like, just love God, and you've got any extra love, then love the world, and we're humble, so we don't have to love ourselves. And I think that's totally wrong. I think if God has created us, we are in the image of God. We are his workmanship. We need to love what he's made.
Yep, that's right.
I think it's impossible to say I love God and we don't love ourselves, because what we're saying is I love you, but as an artist, you really messed up with me. And so today we're really going to spend some quality time with Matt and Micaela talking about the area of self-care, self-love, listening to self, being fully alive as a single.
Yeah, so your life is a remarkable story, an adventure that only you can create.
So we exist to motivate and equip you to live fully alive.
Today on Duzie Live, it's part of our series on unique relationships, and it's about single, and specifically,
and this is the unique relationship with yourself.
That's right, with yourself, and caring for yourself and loving yourself. We had an amazing Duzie Live this morning already with David Taylor and Micaela.
It's already up on YouTube.
Yeah, so
you can go in there.
We want you to be a part of what's going on today. And let's just, I don't know if their videos are going to pop up here, but we want you to be a part of the chat. There's Micaela. Yay, she's in the house. We want you to be a part of the chat because what you do in the chat. We want to encourage you to be alive there. We want you to chat with one another. We want you to chat with us. We want you to chat with Micaela and Matt. You're going to see them in just a moment.
We're going to be authentic here. And we're going to be authentic with our guests. But in the chat, we also want you to be authentic. That's the real question. Let's move through this together today.
Yeah. So I just want to do a little call out. Illy is in the house coming from the Netherlands. Welcome in. David Taylor checking in. He was our featured guest this morning together with Micaela. If you find value with what's happening today, which I know you will, and by the way, you should get out your notebook because there's so many notes that are about to be
Took a whole page this morning.
It was really good, and we just want to remind. Can you remind about our
if there's something quote worthy, if there's something you need to put out, then hashtag FAR, which is Fully Alive Revolution.
Fully Alive Revolution.
Explanation point right there. So don't forget that. And you can put things anywhere you want. You can quote us, quote anything that's going on here. But if you hashtag it, then it's easier to find that. And there's already been one or more on the Fully Live Revolution page. If you're not a part of that, that's where the conversation goes after this into there where we talk some more.
And we already put that as an offer, so you can click on that anytime. If you're already in there, just a quick reminder, go there. We love to have follow-up discussion chats there. And eventually, I don't know if it's going to happen this week because our life is a little bit crazy being here with the kids, but we want to do some Duzie lives, like Facebook Live inside that chat space as a follow-up.
But we want to just stop everything for a moment and just say hello to Megan's mom. Because Megan told me
Rosemary.
to do that.
Rosemary. Hi, Rosemary. Really great to see you, Rosemary. I mean, we see you. You see us. We don't see you. But Megan, maybe you can take a snap of you and your mom and send it to us. We love that.
You know what you see.
And Rahel is in from Germany. Thank you for coming in. And Megan, by the way, says, I've got so many questions, and we're counting on that. Can't wait for that.
Missed those questions this morning. We're blessed to have them this afternoon.
Yeah, so let's get our guests right up here. So we've got Micaela coming in, and we have Matt coming in. Now, we just want to say a couple reasons why we have invited these two in particular in. I'm going to start with Micaela. Micaela! She's hearing from a voice from heaven. I can see that. So Micaela, one of the things that I love about you, which is why we've invited you in to interview, is because you are a yes girl. Every time she can, Micaela says yes. We're going to hear from her that she is definitely on the adventure of life. And every time she can, she says yes. She's a go for it girl. The other thing that I love about you in particular, when we're thinking about being a fully alive single, is that you are intentional with so many parts of your life. You always have a goal. You always have a challenge out there for yourself. And as you're in community, which is another one of your geniuses, you are a community girl, you pull people into them and you help them be the best that they can be by being in relationship with them. So we can't wait to hear from you. You were amazing this morning, and we know that you're going to be amazing yet this afternoon as well.
Yeah, and Matt, you're not that amazing girl, or what do you say, the go for it girl. you are the guy that always is challenging me with my thoughts. When we used to take our walks on the ship, you have an interesting way, Matt, of engineering life. Of seeing things and putting together those things that spark other people. I was just even excited this morning as we were talking in the first show about books that people would write about their life, and you were giving the titles down below. I mean, you were connecting the moment with the title with the support base there, and I think I'm glad you're here because you helped us. You will help us to connect some things that you found in your life, but you just you will see the things as they come up and you will bring them into our attention, which I always love that about you, Matt.
And I'd also like to piggyback that, Matt, you are an encourager. I think your middle name, I don't know if it is, but it should have been Barnabas, because you always get into there to that space and you like go, yeah, you're a yes man in an encouraging, cheerleading, encouraging sort of way. And I think that's the way you embrace life, and that's what you bring into the space when you in particular show up.
So this is a day that we're spending our main focus studying you.
Yes.
Each one of you. You are an incredible work of art. And as we step into who we are, the greatest thing we can study is ourselves.
Yeah.
And so hopefully this is a trampoline that we begin tossing out some things and get the momentum moving, that all of us begin more to study who has God created me to be, that I can relentlessly pursue that.
Yeah. So we've already got some questions started in the chat, and I love that. We're going to get there soon. But as we get started here, would love for you, why don't you start, Micaela, and then Matt, you be the second one. What words would you use to describe yourself as you study yourself? Now, this can be anything. Words that people say about you, you say about yourself. It can be any assessment you've taken, like your personality, your strengths, your Enneagram. It can be any of those words that others have helped you develop for yourself, or that you have come up with yourself. But what are words to describe you? And Micaela, you can be the first voice on this.
Sure. Well, it's nice to be back with the other Taylor. And thank you. It's going to be great. Words to describe me. I will start with the passionality statement that I recently have maybe settled in on. We're about 95, 98. I think it goes higher every time I talk about it. Which is probably
this morning you were 98. Now you're down to 95?
98.5. Let's go with that one.
Okay, we'll take it.
And that is, I maximize joy through exploration. And I love those three words from a young age to, well, at least recently. The joy of the Lord has been one thing that people have used to describe me. But I love to explore everything and anything, whether that be ideas, people, adventures, thoughts, all those good things. And then using what I have to maximize things. And my Enneagram, I float between 4 different numbers. Not really where the point of the Enneagram, but I like the 3-wing 2 and the 7-wing 8. So depending on what situation, the people, the circumstance, the atmosphere, I'll float around what I need to be. I'm sitting right there. So, which is
this speaks to your adaptability, probably, right?
Micaela, I would say for most people, it's the Enneagram. For you, it's the Enneagram. Enneagram will work for you.
That was far out.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Matt, what word would you use?
Yeah, so my passionality statement, as Micaela pointed out earlier in the morning session, is a classic engineer's passionality statement. It's I innovate solutions through collaboration. And I think that gets part of me, but I don't think that gets all of me.
Yeah.
And something that I did before we left the ship, we were on the Logos Hope, and one of the things I did, courtesy of my brother's inspiration, was ask people before we left, what are 3 words that you would use to describe me? And some of the ones that kept coming up a lot, loyal, passionate, genuine, encouraging, passion, peaceful, storyteller, creative, a lot of funny. I don't know why people think I'm funny.
You are.
A jokester, bit of a jokester, and so those are some of the words that people use to describe me. And I think I love people, which makes me a strange engineer, because I like spending time with people. And I sometimes think I'm don't think I'm cut out to be an engineer, because a lot of the time you have to sit on your own on a computer just clicking away. So still figuring that one out.
Yes, but you definitely are a people lover. You didn't put a word in there. You're a juggler. Actually, you're a great juggler and tightrope walker. What is the tightrope? It's not a slackline walker. Yeah. So if you jump
I've
into
got my some stuff here. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Some sticks there.
Ready to juggle, are you? That's great.
Always.
I want to put that question out as well to every single one of you in the chat. What are words that you would use to describe yourself?
Let me just stop here. We had Micaela say some really nice things about herself. We had Matt say some really nice things about himself. Oftentimes, as Christians, we don't do that because we're humble. Humbug. That's not right. You see, if God's if God's created you, then you can use those words about yourself for His glory, because you didn't make yourself.
Yeah.
So I love it when someone says, I am this and I am this and I am this, because that's the way you have been created.
That's right.
Those are the things you identify as who you are, that you can show up in this world. So I would love to see those things written in there. I am amazing. I dare anyone just say, I am just all around amazing, because that's how the rest of the world see you.
Write it, Micaela.
You need to write that in there.
Yeah. In Psalm 139, verse 14, David says, I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and I know that full well.
I know that.
And as we learn about ourselves and we take care of those things that we know about ourselves, it's really very important. And I love this comment by Megan. Megan, thank you for your honesty here. She says, my therapist says that if I treated other people the way I treat myself, I'd be arrested. It's amazingly easy, I find, to love others, but it's not so easy to do that, especially when all I've learned is that I need to be a double and not a single, or that I am a single waiting to be a double, which makes it seem like I'm just waiting around for something. And I think you speak to a number of things right there, Megan. Thank you so much. In that, Dan said, you don't need to be a double, and you don't need to wait around for someone else to come into your world until you can be complete. And I think that's why the unique relationship this week is being focused on you as a single and caring for yourself in that single. Yeah. And then Megan, follow-up question. Okay. Married couples get sex, boyfriend-girlfriend relationship gets hugs and or kisses. What do singles get? So I'm going to put that out to you singles right there, Matt and Micaela. What do singles get?
That is a great question. I was chatting just the other week with an amazing woman from church. She's in her 70s. She's been single her whole life. And she was talking just about this exact issue. And she was saying, actually, one of the real blessings about being single and through that whole age is actually she gets to hug loads of people. She doesn't have a jealous husband or whatever. She is able to be free with that emotional and physical relating with people. And she's a massive hugger. And so that was something that really surprised me. She said, actually, that's been one of the big blessings. And I think sometimes you're right. As Christians, we can get it wrong in so many ways, like you said, with the humble thing, but also with with relationships, with even physical intimacy. We sometimes equate that with sexual intimacy, which would cross a boundary. And it's no, we can be intimate in that way, in a way that is appropriate and healthy.
Yeah, thank you, Matt.
Yeah, and I also just think there are so many things that me being a yes man, there are so many things you just can't say yes to when you're in a relationship. There's somebody else you need to consider before you commit to something, commit your time, your energy, your emotions, your so-and-so. So I just think there are unique opportunities that you can have as a single person that you otherwise can't. Like I could, in theory, without COVID, and said, hop on a plane tomorrow somewhere and not have to consider anything else. So me being the adventure bug, I think there is a lot of yes you can say yes to.
Yeah,
I think another thing that sometimes often is forgotten, and it goes along with what Micaela says, is you have freedom. You can have a dog too, but freedom is one of these things that I cannot just do whatever I want. I cannot make choices just on my own anymore. And Paul talks about that. You are better to stay single because you have this wide range of opportunities that as a married couple you don't. So I think there is some definitely give and take there.
Yeah, and Rahel says, I hope married couples get more than just sex. There is more to that. You're right. Sex is good in marriage, in the right place at the right time, but there is way more than that. And David says, Matt is an awesome top guy. Everyone should have a brother like him. Cheers up there for Matt.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah. And then Jessica says, wow, David, are you going to make Matt blush? I hope so.
I mean, you won't be able to tell because my camera's so rubbish. So,
well, we'll try to notice it. Yeah, it's a great idea. Sounds like you have a brother with a lot of good ideas, Matt. True, true, true. Strange engineer. Okay, David says, words describing me: purposeful, curious, learner, sporty, wise, kind, coach. And Micaela gives a little affirmation there, right? Rahel says singles get freedom to go where they want and to sleep without a snoring somebody next to them. That's true. Dan had a really big snore last night. It's not normal for him. And Tammy says, this is my sister Tammy, and it's true. I am amazing. Yep. She is. She says, I am loyal, very encouraging, steadfast, peaceful, faithful, peaceable, and helpful. And those are all true about you, Tammy. True. Jacob says, words that describe me: introspective, creative, feeling, empathetic, and individualistic.
That's great.
Yeah, that's great. Let's see. Jessica says, what do singles get? We get to love ourselves, understand our worth, and love others more than we could have had we been in a relationship. True. And you do that, Madam Brown. And Jessica David wants to know.
Right on in, couldn't she?
Yes, she's good. And Jessica, David wants to know. That's amazing, Jessica. How do you live these ideas?
Good question.
Okay, so come back to us, Madam Brown. We want to know. Megan says it's really insightful, Matt. But like when there are boundaries, like on Logos, Hope, and Missions areas, how do you have physical affection? I'm blessed that people like Dan and Susie are affectionate, but I think it's how a single person of marriageable age, how do you get that affection? 70-year-old ladies are lovely and adorable, but I'd be interested to know if that lady always had that experience.
That's good.
Matt, I think that's over to you.
That's a great question. I mean, I didn't know her when she was that much younger, so I could throw that back to her. I'll ask her and see what she says. Yeah.
And I'd just like to say that I am married. I do not have a jealous husband. And one of my gifts is hugging. And I am allowed the freedom to give lots of hugs. And I do love that. And I'm blessed that Dan is okay with that, because that's a piece of me, a hugger.
As long as when she completes the circle, I also get one. Sometimes she leaves me out, and we have talks about that. So
don't forget me.
Include me in
all right,
the circle.
All right, bring it in.
Yeah. There's something else that she said. I think part of this whole idea is in the church, we really care about our reputation.
Yeah.
And so many times we restrict people's freedom because what will someone else maybe say on the off chance that someone might think that, it actually is crazy because we live with so many offenses and almost like it's our job to protect the church from anything. And that's actually God's job. And so I think hopefully within this generation, people are telling others, be yourself. If you're a hugger, hug. If you're a kisser, kiss. If you're a conversationalist, if you're a walker, whatever it is, be yourself. And I think, there are sometimes you go into churches where everyone's hugging. I feel a little uncomfortable, but then you go to other churches and all they do is, shake hands. I feel a little uncomfortable. I want to go places where like everything's happening. Yeah. Because that way you actually feel like, I can be me.
Yeah. So thank you for putting in the chat words that describe you. I love this because this is showing how unique each of us are. Yoaz says, words that describe me: loyal, inventive, empathetic, disciplined, encouraging, comforting. Those are great for Yoaz, aren't they?
Good words.
And Lynn says, encourager, comforter, tender-hearted, loyal, adventurer, bearer of wisdom, learner.
Wow. Something's been added that's a little funny.
Let's see. Loving all these amazing words.
No,
everyone here is amazing.
Matt and I tend to always say the same thing.
Yeah, and it's funny because Micaela and Matt and David are always very highly involved in the chat, and we love that. And I'm glad that you're chatting, even though you're up here on the screen. That's awesome that you're able to still do that.
I always am interested to say who did it first, who wrote it first. That's
yeah, if you're both saying the same thing.
There's like a little tally going on.
And who's winning?
Probably
debate,
Micaela. Probably
Peace.
Micaela.
Megan says, words that describe me: catalyst, funny, feeling. Yes. Don't kiss people who don't want that, Rahel says. Megan says, I'm lucky in my old church there was a lot of gay guys, and so lots of hugs and kisses available, no problem with reputation.
Interesting.
Yeah. Awesome. Love that. So we want to jump into our next question. So we're talking about being single and self-care and loving yourself. Micaela and Matt, and we'll start with you, Matt, if you don't mind. How can you love yourself?
That's a great question. I think sort of the main thing it starts with is knowing yourself, your identity. If I don't know myself, how can I even know how to love myself? And then I think some of the other points that I've kind of thought about when thinking about this topic is communication is key. So if we're talking about unique relationships, we're talking about our relationship with ourselves. Well, communication is key in any relationship. So listening and speaking is part of that. And then talking with, like, you're always talking about values and rhythms. Got a couple of relatively important rhythms which underpin some of the things that I think bring me life. And then lastly, there's compassion and patience. Understanding, learning that life is a journey and things don't come quickly. Or lasting things.
Something in patience. What was the first part?
Compassion.
Compassion. Wow, that's good.
Communication, compassion, and
Keystone Habits.
Can you unpack Keystone Habits just a little bit more for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So something that my amazing brother told me about was this theory of Keystone Habits. So it's there are certain habits which they have identified that if you are doing these things regularly, they have an incredibly big impact on your life. So one of those is unsurprising, but it's exercise. People that exercise regularly notice incredible benefits across lots of areas of their life. Another one, which might surprise you, is prayer. People that pray have a huge positive impact on other areas of their life. And so identifying those keystone habits, and those are a couple, but you might have others that we recognize. If I'm doing that, even if it's a hard week, a hard day, or a hard month, but if I've been doing that, I'm able to go through and I'm able to actually thrive in a hard place.
I just have an engineering question for you, Matt. The keystone is the one when you're building an arch. It's the one that goes on the top that holds everything together. Is that right?
I think that's one name for it. That's also called a capstone. So
okay.
I like that because it flows with the C, communication, compassion.
Nice, capstone.
Yeah, it's got the sound, hasn't it? Identity doesn't quite fit in that.
Okay, good. Yeah. Well, those are good things.
And Micaela, what about you? How can you love yourself?
Well, one thing for me is I love to explore. And for me, not limiting myself to what I can learn, grow, just gather those new information. So one of the ways I love myself is going and trying something new, picking up something new, going on an adventure, whether that even be an adventure. I don't know. I see most things as an adventure. So I guess just kind of undertaking that. But another one too, though, is as long as let me pause. As far as like rhythms, I think exercise 100%. I just think there is something mentally that is released that allows me to serve people more, to do a lot more. I have a lot more energy throughout my day so that I can do other things that also fill me and make me fully alive. So I totally get it. It affects so many different things. Yeah. And one other thing too is community. For me, especially without having that significant other, that you don't have that one person that you go to, having specific people in your life that you recognize, I go to them when I need this and I need encouragement, or I go to them when, you know what, we just need to lay out an idea and look at it from a different perspective, or I go to them when we're going to go paddleboard or go on an adventure or a hike, that there are people in my life that I know can encourage me, be there for me in the places that make me fully alive. And I think it's really, really special to have those group of people.
Yeah.
One thing I'm hearing from both of you say, which is interesting, is the need to, when you self-care, you are more ready to care for others.
Yeah.
Which sometimes we get this wrong. We need to take care of others first. And if there's any extra time, take care of yourself. But you guys are saying, take the adventure, do the exercise, read the book, have some quiet time so that you will have what it takes to serve others. And I love that progression that both of you are coming out with those thoughts.
Yeah, and I just listened to Oprah Winfrey recently, and she said full people are able to overflow into others. If you are not full yourself, it was a self-care talk. If you're not full yourself, you're not able to overflow because you don't have the filling that you need. And Megan asked a question to Micaela and Matt, if you're comfortable answering, maybe you see it there. How much do you allow yourself sensual pleasures? So like good food, massages, facials, great haircuts, or, anything that makes you feel good. I've started doing this where I have a monthly delivery of flowers. So I have something beautiful in my house. I treat myself to a nice haircut every 6 weeks or so. Well, I did before lockdown, and also like regular back and shoulder massages. It's all about self-care. What say you to this?
Okay, first, right off the bat, I love food, and I love good food. And I love exploring foods. Like, I will usually try any food once before I say no to it. So as far as that goes, I think that is included in that, like, exploring. But I think there comes a point where maybe in our heads we get it to where it's like, I shouldn't feel this, like I'm receiving so much and I feel great, and if I'm overflowing, then I'm not doing what I'm not serving people well because I'm overflowing. Mm-hmm. And so I think oftentimes I feel like we sometimes force ourselves into that serving mode, force ourselves into being there for people, force ourselves, I'm not really feeling it, but I know I'm supposed to do it, so I will. And I just don't think oftentimes I don't think that's God's heart for us. I think he's like, I want to fill you up so that you just like can't help but flow into other people and flow into those things. And so that's when I kind of look at those things, I go, sometimes, a nice bath with a face mask and like that brings me up to being able to feel like healthy and alive and able to then serve, rather than like surviving and still trying to serve.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Often is what I would say.
Good.
I think that's great, Micaela. I love that. I mean, for myself, I love your list there, Megan. I can't say I've had that many great haircuts in my life because for most of my life, my dad did it. And our clippers sounded like, they sounded like someone was driving a tractor over your head. So it was a pretty painful experience most of the time. It's just endure it. I think it's good to recognize, we're not this kind of Greek picture of you've got a body and you've got a spirit and they're separate and one's good and one's bad. God made us from the earth and breathed his breath into us. So we are a unified spirit and body. So it's good to enjoy the good physical things that are in this world. Absolutely. And I totally agree with what Micaela's saying. So often, especially those of us who want to feed into others and serve others, we can get into a place where we're going, oh, I've got to give, I've got to give, I've got to give. You know, sometimes I'll be reading something and I'm going, oh, wow, this is really powerful. And before I've even finished processing it, I'll be like, who can I send this to? Who would this be really helpful for? And that's almost, well, that's stupid in a way, because it's like, well, hang on, I've got to enjoy it. And it's the same with, you said, like with food or with, again, I've not had that many massages. I'm sure they're amazing. Or I've never had a facial thing either, so I think I'm missing out actually. But yeah, absolutely, we've got to be filled, and God put us in a good world, a very good world, and he wants us to enjoy it. And if we're not, I think we're dishonoring him.
The best massages, just let everyone know, are in Asia, but there's this one place that Susie and I went one time, and I was expecting this incredible massage, and I ended up, she was standing in the middle of my back with two fingers up my nose,
with eucalyptus in it,
pulling my head back, there was no sensual pleasure at all in that moment for me.
But there was this story.
So if you're going to love yourself, make sure you choose the right place to get the massage.
Dan, were they interrogating you by any chance?
I have no idea what they were, but I was glad when it was over.
It was a couples massage, which was hilarious. So like we were both in the same room. We had two massagers, and we ordered the same thing.
We didn't get the same
thing. I was looking at this lady doing all these gymnastics upon Dan and stretching him beyond limits.
You ever seen Big Time Wrestling where the lady gets in the corner and he jumps? The essence of my massage was.
It really was. Anyway. I was watching going, I'm so glad I didn't get that one. She must have had a little something out for Dan in particular. I don't know. Megan was talking about at her old church, there was a regular lunch after church where all those that were single could eat together. Couples could also join, but it was lovely having someone you could have lunch with after church. It was a singles community that encouraged each other, and we did lots together. I just wonder about either of you. Do you have a community that really encourages the highest level of singleness that you are in at the moment?
Wow. Well, before coming to the ship, I was part of just an amazing student ministry at university, and most of the people there were single, and it was just a really great place. And often after church, we had church in the afternoon, so we would do our small group, and then everyone would head out to the pub, and just it's sharing life together. And as you said, there's something about having a meal with people who are in a similar space to you, and just being open and no agenda, no kind of meeting, just life. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, kind of going back to your question, Megan, but I think another thing for me personally, what makes me feel fully alive is one thing is water. I'm going to kind of go hand in hand, but I was thinking about this. One thing is water. And so I recently just bought a paddle board, and I was like, is this a really bad idea? Like, should I not be spending money on this? Should I have done something else? And then the more and more I thought about it, I go, I love the water, and most often God meets me on the water. And so I bought this so that I could take the paddleboard out to the middle of the lake, maybe bring my lunch. I have like a 10-liter dry bag, bring some lunch, sit in the middle, and not only enjoy God's creation, but enjoy something that I love to do. And then that is where God meets me the most. And so I think oftentimes in the places that we love, the things that are pleasurable, God also meets us there so often. And of course he would. Like, of course he wants to go hand in hand with what he's created you to enjoy. And then, so another thing about that, kind of going back to the community, recently I just got involved with, here in Georgia, there's like a young adult sports group. And I was a track and field athlete, which I just put in the chat. But so it was like an individual sport, like you had a team, but you know, it was one for all. Right? And so being a part, we're playing like frisbee and volleyball, and being a part of the team and having this like overall community there while doing something that I love. It's like a month ago, I go, why do I feel so full? Like, why do I feel so energized and energetic? And then the more I sat and thought of it, I was like, it's because of this, because it goes with like working out and community all together in one. And of course, God's going to show up, and of course, God is going to, and not only that, and then we have like dinner after or whatever, and it fosters conversation and being with one another and other young adults that are encouraging the single, fully alive life. So it's a really, really beautiful mix. And I just think it's such a gift from God and what God's heart for us is here.
Yeah.
So. And Micaela, I love what you just said about you're in the midst of this. You're noticing yourself. This is a self-care piece as well. You're noticing yourself and you're saying, wow, I am fully alive. What is it that makes me fully alive? And you've identified being with community, doing sports, and vibrant connections and communication afterwards, that the combination of those actually fills your tank. And that's a piece of self-care for you in particular, because that's who you are. That probably wouldn't do the same thing for Dan. I would be with you. I'd be like, yeah, bring it, more people. And we are uniquely in that way. We get filled up, or we get tanked up in different ways. You know, the concept of love languages, when people speak our love languages, our love tank or our emotional tank gets more filled. But I think the fully alive tank also gets filled in a similar but different way. Would either of you like to speak about that?
Micaela, you go first. Yeah, totally. I do. And there's kind of what I was learning from the last one onto this one, and we kind of highlighted it, having David here and being like, actually, David and I are very different in our own ways, and yet, like, how much life. Okay, let me step back. Oftentimes, I like to become kind of the all things adaptable, do whatever everybody else likes, and so I found myself in the past years trying to change myself, change what I like, what I love, what makes because of who was around me. And I was like, oh, I really, really like that they're really good at this. I want to become better at that. Like, and I would identify myself like, I am this person. And I would convince myself I was, even if I actually wasn't at all. And it's been a journey of actually discovering, oh no, these are my gifts. These are my passions. These are the things that I love. And it is different from other people, and how beautiful and special that is. So then when we're all surrounded with one another, I get to bring my special flair in life, and they get to bring their special flair in life. And I don't exactly know what your question was, but that's what I was going with.
Talking to it. Yeah, you're a good setup for it. Yeah.
So yeah, I am very different, and yeah, I'll explore and joy and all these things, but yeah, and that's my own uniqueness, but everybody has their own uniqueness, and we need to know that so that we can show up with that.
Yes. Per reach. That's good.
Man.
Anything to add, or?
I mean, I think that's great. One of the things that I really struggled with growing up is comparison. I would always play this little game in my head and kind of go, that person is better than me at A, B, C, or D, whether it was football, soccer, or maths, or, I would always play this little game in my head, and nobody else knew I was playing. And over the years, I realized, this is definitely not a life-giving thing, playing this little competition in my head and to try and kind of play myself against other people. And it's like, hang on, when did this become a competition? Why didn't it just become, I am these things, and these are the things that I'm really good at, and they are those things, and those are the things that they're really good at. And definitely takes a journey, but it's now more beautiful because, for example, when someone steps up and sings an amazing song, or does something incredible on the sports field, or is able to, ask an insightful question that I would never have thought of, or solve some kind of problem that I couldn't, I can go, wow, isn't it amazing that you're here? Because you can do something that I can't do. And otherwise I'd be stuck, or otherwise I wouldn't have witnessed that amazing, beautiful thing. And I'm sure that there are times when I've done something which I think is totally normal because that's just how I am. And other people go, whoa, how does he do that? And when occasionally, I'm sure you guys have had that when someone says that to you and you're going, oh, I just thought that was normal, because that's just how I am.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah,
just to speak into what you were saying and what Mega said a little bit ago about her church and afterwards having meals together. I think sometimes the church is really good at dividing people. Okay, if you're a little kid, you go to that class. If you're a little older, you go to that class. If you're an older person, you go there. Guys, you go over there. Girls, you go over there. And it's all about dividing.
Singles, this, yeah.
But if you study, I remember in the book Chasing Francis, there is this moment where the guy who is walking around Europe or walking around Italy realizes that St. Francis had Claire. And though there was nothing romantic, there was this incredible value of this guy hanging around this woman, Claire, that was so healthy. And I think sometimes we jeopardize our life by only looking for those people who are the same, only looking for those people that maybe we can compete with, rather than embracing the diversity that St. Francis was hanging around. His best friend, and he's a monk, the best friend was this lady Claire. And I find that to be fascinating because we enrich ourselves by those we hang with. And too often, I know for myself, to hang with a girl when I was in college, even, I felt guilty. Oh, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm going to be a preacher someday. I can't be around a girl. Where it would have been so healthy for me to grow with someone else who was different. And I think that's some of the issues we're dealing with today with the Black Lives Matters and with the political things. All the rest is that we have based so much of our identity on who we're like, rather than valuing the diversity. And I think some of those things, like you were saying, that competition, even in our head, we've got to embrace those differences.
Yeah, and I also just want to piggyback on that as well, Matt, because Micaela is talking about these things help me live fully alive, but you also identified, and these things do not help me live fully alive.
Right.
And those two are equally valuable to identify in the process of life. Oh, well, like why am I feeling so downward spiraling or low energy? Okay, did I exercise? Did I eat well? Like the checklist of these keystone areas. And when those are in place, what is it that is, for example, an anti-passion that you are in the midst of? Is that type of group of people? Is it that situation? What was going on in your mind? So to equally identify, how did the two of you do that? How do you know what makes you fully alive and what does not make you fully alive? Like, how do you track that and listen to yourself? This morning, David helped us really focus on listening to ourselves. How do the two of you do that?
That's a great question. It's something that I'm still working on. And I feel like with the Fully Alive Revolution, it's going to fast track that process because I'm going to actually get amazing tools and amazing training and amazing connection time to learn that better. But it's identifying, those. It is about listening to yourself and going, I'm having a tough week. Why am I having a tough week? What is about this week that's tough? Is it just that the world got tougher? Chances are no. There is something that's changed in my response. And for example, that comparison thing, the thing that needed to change there wasn't even any actions. It was just a mindset change.
Yeah.
I see the world differently. Stop seeing other people's talents and gifts as things to be competed against and as challenging to me, and see them as beautiful and even inspiring. And so sometimes it's as simple as, what am I seeing that is a a challenge that could actually be a beautiful opportunity.
Yeah. We talked a little bit earlier about journaling. I wonder if for either of you, Micaela, maybe you go now, but I wonder if journaling or writing, or, you know, journaling is more personal and chatting out loud is a more community thing, if that comes into play for either of you. But go for it, Micaela.
Well, yeah, so I'm not a great journaler at all, but I do see the value in it. And we were talking at the first one about how I'd gotten this 5-year journal. It's literally just like 6 lines. And there's 5 different sections of 6 lines per day. So you go through a year and then you come back and you write another 5 lines on that same day. You get to see what you were doing. And that's what I've been starting to do, just so that I can sit at the end of the day and go, okay, like, what were those key points? What made me feel alive? What maybe didn't make me feel alive? And maybe what, you know, is point of reflection. And it's really quick, easy, to the point, because I oftentimes can jump from one experience to the next experience, from the next experience. And it would take me a minute to go, oh, wait, actually, I'm not feeling fully alive in this place, or I'm actually being drained. So I think journaling is really good. If not journaling, at least setting a space to check in with yourself. But like, okay, I know, like, Susie, you and I were talking, it was like in the shower, like perfect time, sit, okay, in the shower, when I'm brushing my teeth, let me check in. Just spaces where it's like you're doing every single day. Yeah. What are those times that you can really check in? As far as one thing that makes me not very fully alive is I'm a big perspective person, and I love to see the silver lining, and like, you know, something good can come out of everything. And really, one of the top 5 words I would use to describe God would be redemptive. And so that he is within everything, anything can come out. And so I find myself feeling very anti-passionality, not having any passion when I'm in those places where it's like, no, this is it. It's not like you can't make the best out of it. It is what it is. Nothing can change. And so when I get to that point, when I'm feeling defeated, either in my life of where I can go or my options, or just in a circumstance like in teams or something, when it feels like all is lost, that's when I go, wait a minute, let me step back. Maybe I'm just circling around the drain, like we were saying before, and I have to step back and say, wait, before I'm just going to keep running down this road, I need to step back and look at this perspective. And then that's where I come in of like, I need the time to sit and think, but I also need a backboard to say, hey, this is what's going on. Can you help me like process this? And so, yeah, whether it's journaling or with somebody, backboard processing, I think just anything when I'm feeling that is really important.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for that.
Can I add one thing to the journaling conversation?
Sure.
So when I was on the ship, I started this journal. Hang on, where I don't know if you can see that, but it's my what went well journal.
I love that.
It's something that I do at the end of the day. And basically, this is both a listening and a speaking to myself. So earlier I talked about how communication is key in any relationship. And in any relationship, you've got to listen to yourself. And we've talked about how journaling and reflecting is obviously what is happening, and listening to maybe your experiences, your emotions, my body, but then also it's an opportunity to speak back into yourself. So there's a couple of things that I write to myself at the beginning of every entry, every day that I write this. And I'll just share that out with you guys because I think it's really powerful. And it's something that is grounding, because no matter how good or bad the day has gone, I come back to these things. I go, my value and worth come from who I am and whose I am, not from what I do or what I have. I am loved and chosen by my Father God. He welcomes me home. And everything that happened today works for my good and is an opportunity to learn and grow. And those things I write every day, regardless of how well or badly the day has gone. And it just helps me to go, these things are true. And it helps me to either, if I've had a really rubbish day, lift me up and go, your worth has not been degraded by having a rubbish day or by lashing out at someone or failing. Or if I've had an amazing day, I've absolutely smashed it, I've hit every one of my goals, I'm absolutely definitely gonna hit all of my achievements in life by the time I'm 30, it grounds me, and I go, hang on, I'm not worth any more. I'm not, my value hasn't increased. I am still the same, but actually there's a very high dignity still, because I'm welcomed and I'm loved and cherished by God.
Yeah. Wow, David or Matt. Sorry, that's very, very powerful. What went well journal. Listen to yourself. Now you had that whole list, like who am I? Whose am I? And then you actually write out who you are, and that. Can you give us an example of something that you might write?
Yeah. So after saying those 3 sentences, so my value is not from what I do or what I have, but comes from who I am and whose I belong to, I then just write a small list. I go, what I'm grateful for. What am I grateful for today? And it can be something as simple as I had a really great meal, or I went for a walk, or I enjoyed playing football today. And then as of the last couple of weeks, after listening to Kim Kakura talk about kind of emotions and grief and stuff, I have the heartbeat of the day, as Dan called it. You can see it's all a bit of a mess, but at the bottom there you've got kind of like a timeline of the day and what went well, and it's just a very quick, above the line is good, below the line is negative, and I write a few emotional words. So I've got a list of emotions. So today, well, I was amazed or thankful or joyful or angry, frustrated, inspired, and those are just a bit of a health check on what were the emotions of the day and how did it pan out, how did it look, and that helps me.
Just so practical. Thank you for sharing that.
Somebody just put up a comment. I'm never sure who it was, but that I can't even do my journal more than 2 weeks. I just want to give a little advice to everybody out there. This is like some people who are like, I can't do art. Stop calling it art then. Stop calling it a journal, because there are rhythms in your life. Like when you sit down to a table, if you had a book there and that book was basically my I will, or this was a great day, or my life book, and it's just you write one word or one emotion. For me, when I got started with my journal, I just said to myself, I won't go to sleep at night unless I write in my journal. That was it. So that set a rhythm for me, and I think too many people fall short of this because they focus on the time. Don't focus on the time. Focus on yourself. What is in me that I don't want to forget? Just take a moment and write that down. Put it next to your toilet. Put it in the bag before you get on the bus. You're waiting. Do it there. The time doesn't matter. But anything, and this is what I believe with my heart, if you want to remember something, if you want to grow from someplace, you have to take a moment and recognize it. This is called self-study. There is probably nothing in life that's more important to study than yourself. And I even include God there, because as we look at ourselves, we see God. We're in the image of God. I study the Bible every day, but I study it to know more, how do I live this life? And too often, I think we don't take time to study who we are and the world around us. That life book, that notebook, what do you call it? That what went well
journal. Yeah.
It's basically an intentional way for you to thrive. And I would give yourself permission to thrive and note that down, because you never have to look at it again. You could buy a different journal every day and write one word in it. Great. That is a study. That's like going to university.
High budget
all
right
those textbooks and you throw them away afterwards. That's okay. It's not about the book. It's not about the time. It's about you studying yourself. And when you do that, you will intentionally thrive. Guaranteed.
Reach, Dan Potter.
Can I jump on that, Dan? Because that was fantastic.
Yes, jump.
Just 3 quick things for if you want to continue to do something like a life-giving habit. 1, keep it short. As you said, Dan, one word. If all you can do, Rahel or anyone else, is one word, just do that one word. Keep it consistent. If every day, do that one word. But if you miss a day, the third rule or the third guideline, don't miss 2 days.
Oh.
And that helps. Keep it short, keep it consistent every day. And if you miss a day, Grace, don't miss a second day. Just get
Somebody
back on.
fire
Just get
out
right back
that
on.
one. That was
Good.
really good. Can somebody write that down?
So
Put it
good.
in our Fully Alive Revolution. These are really awesome.
We had a few comments back here. We got to get a hold of.
Yeah. So
Just while Susie's looking at for, we
I
have
got
to we have to find something for. I need a thumb up or not. If Susie stands right here and I stand right here, is that okay? Because you see both of our heads. Susie keeps wanting me to come stand by her shoulder, which that may be something she's trying to say to me that I don't really know. So just give me a TU if it's okay if I stand like behind her, because she's giving me notes on the side. You need to stand next to me. Okay, this is much better. But I feel like I'm giving people the cold shoulder.
know what you can.
Oh,
stand
that's
up
better. That's much better. Okay, here we go.
Sometimes let us see you a little bit more. It's kind of tricky to squeeze in this little space here. Yeah. So, I think they're going to tell us, right? So
See,
Jessica's
this space is perfect for me.
okay, fine. So Jessica says her power keeps going out, and she's responding to something earlier, which I think is great. Jessica says, well, David, I feel like I'm on a talk show. Before I love anyone, I have to be able to love myself. For me to love myself, I have to know what makes me lovable. I have to take time to be with myself and give myself that space. That's also found in what God says about me, spending time with him. And like King David, knowing his worth from spending time with God, he is then able to extend that worth to us. I love speaking to people, especially on a deep level. I dive. In those conversations, I'm able to extend that love to others. Do unto others plays a big part. Do unto yourself what you would to others can be even bigger. And Megan mentioned that earlier as well. And I think that's very powerful.
Good stuff.
Thank you for sharing that. And Lynn says, that's a great journal, Matt. I'm inspired to start one as well. Sounds like something I need. And Jessica,
just a quick note here. I'm going to let a little cat out of the bag. Susie and I this year are going to start writing help journals for people. And they're going to be 100 days long, but they're going to be guided tours into your own life.
So Matt, we're going to co-write on that one. You're pioneering.
There's going to be a creative journal to walk you 100 days into it, but don't tell anyone yet.
It's coming. It's coming. Joshua Potter is helping us. Jessica said, speaking truth into others' lives and unto your own at yourself can reset you, and it's so important. It's a great foundation. It's a great 2nd, 4th, and 25th level. Just keep adding it. I find that so truth. As I'm in community with others and I see things and I speak truth to them, many times I say it, especially Micaela and I when we're hanging out. I'm like, I'm speaking to myself right now too. Even as I'm encouraging her and others, I'm putting words out there that I also am trying to listen to. And David says, let's become experts in who God made us to be. Step 1, journal. Notice your thoughts, emotions, and experiences.
I know what David's step 2 is.
What is it?
Get a coach.
Get a coach. There we go.
Yeah, here's a plug for David, who is a coach with currently available spaces. He's so good. He's one of the best coaches we know. He is not going to have spaces in the very near future. He's going to be.
If you need a coach, which I think everyone does, contact David soon.
Matt says, if you miss a day, keep it short, keep it consistent. Don't miss 2 days.
It went wrong when I typed it in. Those were the 3 points.
Yeah.
Keep it
nice.
1, keep it short. 2, keep it consistent. 3, don't miss 2 days if you miss a day.
Yeah.
But it somehow west up.
That's okay. That's okay. Stand behind her, then we can see you, Megan says.
Thank you. Thank you.
That went
A little further back, the window, near the window.
Yeah, like in the video. How far do you go down? How far do you go?
Yeah, how about
If I go here, then I sit down.
There you go.
Okay, Matt says, Micaela knows about diving. She does it from handstands on paddle boards. Could you tell us a little bit about that, Micaela? I think that's interesting.
Okay, well, we were talking about earlier that sometimes when I need to do something, like I just need to try something new, and that makes me fully alive. And often I've had to learn it's okay to fail, and that I will fail, and I'll fail over and over and over again. but I'm going to learn and I'm going to grow and I'm going to learn more about myself. And so, I bought a paddleboard the other day, and I have this thing of trying handstands everywhere I hike or I go. Like, I think at some point I'm going to have a slideshow of 100 different handstands of all the places that I've done. But one of them was recently, let's see if I can get it, recently on a paddleboard. Here's my falling and taking somebody out there with me. But I did it. Look, I was on it for a bit.
Wow.
Yes, awesome.
Nice.
Well, we've been talking a lot.
Megan has one more question.
We've been talking a lot about already values and rhythms and community with others that helps you feel fully alive. You've kind of answered that question, but is there anything else that either of you wants to add about your values, what you believe, and your rhythms, what you put into regular practice? And community is the social bit of it. Some of us just have our values and our rhythms, and we're good in our own. And others of us need community in there to feel fully alive. But once again, what values, rhythms, community choices do you make to help you feel fully alive?
Great question. So I think one of the things I've identified is the reason I love football, soccer, is that it fulfills several values. It fulfills a value to have connection with people. It also fulfills a value that underpins exercise, so for health and well-being, and also it fulfills a value for challenge and competitiveness. And so that's for me, it's something I'm really missing at the moment, actually. But if I'm able to play football once a week or something, that really is a high point for me, because it's community and it's living out of myself whilst also hitting some of the other values.
And if you notice what he said, football once a week, that's value and rhythm. And I think you have to, whenever you think of value, you have to think of, so right now he still has the value of football, but there's no rhythm. And so it doesn't make any sense. Anytime in our life we have a value, we must also have the rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
One thing for me, I always want to feel like I'm growing. I hate feeling stagnant. And so one thing at the beginning of the year, and it really was great when COVID happened, was I started learning. I've always wanted to, but I started learning Russian through Duolingo. And what I love that's come out of it is that now I'm getting connected to people from Russia. You're building new relationships, and with the rhythms, I'm on day 139 was today. And I was going every day for at least 15 minutes.
So good.
Wow.
But it's so it's just something that's I remember to do it and I enjoy it. And then at the end I go, wow, I actually know way more words than I really expected to. But then it's then the connections that are being built, and like you said, community is really big for me. And so it's and then it opens up a new door into community and a new thing. So that's just one to constantly learn, and it can be the littlest things. And it's another way of I explore the world is I'm going to explore this language, or I'm going to explore things. So just trying something new, getting out of our comfort zone. And I think with that, you learn so much more about yourself and how God created you. And who knows, you're going to find a passion, I'm sure, out of something new that you try. So that's one thing for me, for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. I know we're over our 1 hour mark, so we try to kind of hit on that, but we want to continue on in backstage if both of you are available to just carry on a little bit longer. One of the things that we love to do, did you go backstage? One of the things we love to do here in this interactive space of Duzie Live is we encourage you to write takeaways. So we know many of you,
you don't want to forget.
will need to leave just because of time, but would you mind writing your takeaways? What did you capture from this time together that we've had?
This is like a public journal entry. That's just simply you.
Did you say the word journal? Can you use a different word? Just a response. Response for those who don't like that word. And then we're going to go to Megan's question, and then I want to ask you, what is it that helps you show up and be fully alive as yourself?
And that's coming soon, right?
Yeah, everybody.
Everyone is in the
What
chat
helps
too.
you
Everybody
show up?
in the
Right.
chat as well. Yeah.
Yep. But we want to have ask Megan's question here. Just putting this question in again because she really wants to know. So another question for Matt and Micaela. Do you feel called to be single, or would you like to be a double? How do you balance the hope for something different while being present in the state you're in now? Great question, Megan. Thank you.
Either one of you can start that one.
Yep.
Sorry. I couldn't help it. The way that the question was like, do you guys want to be a double?
Do I want to? I'm not sure.
And it's just like, okay, way to put people on the spot. Micaela, take it away.
Oh no, I can't.
As he falls off his chair.
I saw this question earlier and I go, well, maybe we'll just not come back to it. But Megan had to throw it back. No, so I think I'm learning. Do I feel called to be single? I think there's a yes and a no to that. I think because I do feel called to be single. Like, I'm not going to be hoping and wishing that I wasn't in my current state, not single. So the fact that I am, I'm like, okay, well, I'm called to be single right now because of that. And I think I'm learning that there is so much that I've yet to discover about myself. There's an adventure and a hill and a mountain that I know God is like, we're about to go up this. This is going to be fun. And in a way I go, does that include somebody else right now? I'm not sure. It doesn't currently, so we're not thinking about it. But so it's a very hard question to answer. Because I think I constantly have to remind myself, okay, because I'm not right now, this is what I want to be intentional in. I want to be an intentional single that is thriving where I'm at right now. Is there a dream and a desire? Yes. But is it something, I just want to check in with myself. Is it something that is preventing me from doing something, preventing me from learning more about myself, preventing me of being fully me because I want to be in a relationship? And so as long as I feel like, okay, no, it's not preventing me from where I think God is wanting me right now and what I'm learning, where I'm growing in that relationship with Jesus and walking through that. I'm really fumbling around because it's a really hard question to answer. But I think at the end of the day, I balance it by going, I know it's a dream of mine, but because it's not presently, I'm going to focus on something else. And I'm going to focus on myself. How do I show up fully alive? Where are the places that because I'm in this unique situation of being single, I'm going to take advantage of it then. And where can I take advantage? So that's my fumble around that answer.
Yeah, that's a great from the heart answer. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Matt, what about you?
Absolutely. Mixing a couple of things here. It's one of the things that we were talking about earlier, Dan, about how as a church we're fantastic at separating everyone out, the kids in their little age groups, and I mean we all like to hang out in our own group of people that are similar, whether that's whatever that's dividing on. One of the best things that I ever that was a part of that the church put on with regards to marriage and singleness with my before coming to the ship. Basically, they said, right, we're going to do this thing on marriage and singleness and relationships, but we're not going to do it as all the singles go over here and all the couples go over here and all the, we're going to go, who wants to be involved? And then we'll split you into groups and we're going to intentionally mix those groups up. So there'll be a few married people in there, some people that are dating, some people that are single, whether they've, and it was fantastic. And it was very revealing. You had people coming out and going, wow, like we've been married 10 years and I'm only just now realizing how selfish I've been this 10 years and I've been a terrible spouse. And it's like, oh, wow, that was interesting. One of the key learnings that came out of that for me was in in the church more so than a culture now, I think, but still in the culture, we hold up that kind of marriage, or certainly the culture holds romantic relationships very kind of like up here, but the church holds up marriage as the ideal, the thing that everyone's aiming for. And until you're there, you're kind of in the waiting room. And one of the most beautiful things that came from that was marriage has a set of blessings, but also challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And singleness has a set of blessings and also challenges.
Yeah.
And God, in his gift of generous and mercy and wisdom, knows which set of challenges and blessings to give us at what time in our life. So I totally agree with Micaela. Right now, I'm not in a relationship, so I could let that hold me back, and I could let that become my one consuming thing, or I could go, okay, I'm at peace with living who I am right now. And I would totally agree as well. I'm 25 now, and I'm going, my goodness, I think I've only just started to understand who I am, you know. And I'm sure in a year's time it will be the same, and probably every year from now on until I depart. Or, you know, but wow, like there is so much to live for right now. So I definitely don't feel called to be single for my entire life. But right now I find myself in that place. And so I'm going to live that as best I can. And on the flip side, there is also a risk. And from a personal point of view, there's a risk of becoming passive and going, oh, well, never going to happen, or oh, it's quite tricky and it's risky and it's vulnerable to start that journey. And so there is that risk of going, oh, well, maybe I'll just use that as an excuse. So on the flip side, sometimes I need to go, hang on, are you going to actually take a step forwards? Because I can pray all I like, but often God is going to go, hey, hang on, are you going to take that opportunity? And it doesn't have to be in this regard. It can be in anything. But I think there's that risk as well. So it's a two-sided thing. Absolutely. I want to live fully who I am now, and not just see the challenges, but see the blessings for what they are. But also be willing to take that risk and that step into the different sets of relationship blessings and challenges, if that comes about.
Awesome. Wow. Very powerful answers. Go, Micaela. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to add on to that too. Yeah, I think in the church too, we often think of marriage as you've arrived. Like, congratulations, you've accomplished the biggest goal that you were set forth to, which that's not to take away. It is an extremely valuable, beautiful, step in your life. But I think sometimes that causes us to think of it, oh, well, once I'm married, I've arrived and I am who I am and I've got my partner. And I think maybe sometimes it prevents us from, no, I'm still an individual. I'm still a child of God who has created me individually. And that, yeah, it's like a beautiful, then you blend together and you get to work with that. But yeah, and often it's just like, I had to change my mindset of like, wait, that's not like my end goal. My end goal is to like get a partner and we keep moving forward, rather than like, here's marriage at the top of the list and woohoo. So just that perspective change is, it's like, no, I'm on a journey and now we're going to keep going and it's going to be great.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the developing piece of it, and speaking to what you said, Matt, at 25, we said this earlier today, but this was an awareness that you just brought up again. When I was a teenager, had Dan met me at that time, he would not have chosen me, because the person I was then, I didn't know myself like I did when I was in my mid-20s when we met, which actually being together helped me know myself even more. But I didn't know myself well enough. I knew I was going to be a missionary and I knew I was going to be a nurse, and that's it. But there were so many other parts of me, like we're talking about here today, that I didn't even have a clue about, where if we would have met, he would have never chosen me, because we weren't, like you just said, Micaela, on the same path, going in the same direction together, doing what it takes to be individually fully alive, and together being that ripple effect or that multiplication of two fully alive people, or like a community of fully alive people can be.
Because too often as well, this is what we actually see happen, is we see Matt realize I have to get married. He marries someone who everyone thinks he should get married to. They get married, and she says, I don't want you to play football anymore.
And he loves football.
And because you don't find someone who's moving in the same direction as you. And, I think that's one of the hardest things about this whole double process is that there are so many people who, when they become double, they actually lose their single. They lose who they are. And I think that's very, very important that, the two do become one, but you still have your own passions and desires. You still are a person. And I think there is an ugly truth in church history that, especially for the women, that the women had to cease to be.
Yeah.
Their role was now just to make their husband look good, which was just terrible. And I think that's why these talks are so important, because you have to take a hold of who you are as a single and learn to love yourself and learn to identify who you are and what you love, so that if there is a moment in time where that does grow to be two people, then you know that. And then two people need to be two people long enough to understand who they are as two people, so you can add a third person. I mean, this thing is just, it isn't simply just get married and just have kids. That you lose something unless you intentionally right now decide to thrive. And what makes you come alive? It happens when you stand in your head in lots of places. Time City, New York City. I'm expecting a photo from there, because that's who you are. And I think that is so important. And that's what community will do for you. Get a community around you, and you normally do, that supports you to be who you are. And then as a single becomes a double, make sure that continues.
Yeah. And just before we jump into what makes you fully alive, I think that's so important. I just want to share some of the takeaways that have been coming out here. Lynn says, being single is about getting to know yourself and the unique relationship between you and yourself. And that can be one of the most awesome processes of your life. Rahel says, I think I will think about the journaling again, but if there is no one who will ask me about it regularly, I think it will fail again. Somebody needs to put their hand up and volunteer to be in community with Rahel and support her in there. Jacob says, write down a reflect. Okay, Micaela? All right, you guys need to connect somehow in the Fully Alive Revolution Facebook group, right? Jacob says, write down a reflection each day, something I really want and need to start doing. And David thinks those are amazing takeaways, and they are. And she said, I'm sure you'll all write them down in your journals tonight. And Megan says, self-care is so important. And Megan apologizes for putting Micaela on the spot. Did she do that, Micaela? No, it's okay. All right. Oh, no, welcome it. And Yoas says, my takeaway, you can only overflow into others when you yourself are full. Mm-hmm. You can spill out if you shake a little bit, but the true overflow, like if you're half full and you really shake it, like Matt's doing so beautifully, but it's true. You need to be full. And David says, every stage of our lives and relationship seasons has been blessings and sacrifices. And I love that point that Matt brought out. In our life, we'll have blessings and challenges. And we think, it's only blessings when you get that. It's only challenges when you get that. I loved what you said about that. And Megan says, I remember one of my friends said to me, I'm going to be honest about what marriage is like, because everyone talks about how wonderful it is. But I know it's not like that. She and her husband are so brilliant and funny and really open as well. I think there are blessings and challenges everywhere. Megan says, once I'm married, I'm complete. And therefore, as a single person, you are incomplete. I think there's a fallacy that the church perpetuates, right? That is not true. You can be complete and fully alive on your own. Lynn says, so perhaps there's something more like finding a fellow adventurer to journey through life with and be a double complete as opposed to incomplete by yourself. Yeah. And Megan says, Dan, you look like Susie's bodyguard. That's how I felt. Thank you for saying that. But my cord is only this long, so I can't go behind him. Otherwise, I lose it. And that's why I'm stuck in my position. Rahel says, some people couples like a he is taken care of. But if a partner treats you bad, you have a problem. It's hard to find someone to talk about it with. Yeah. Matt says, can't wait for the handstand in front of the Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio. Yes, that will that will be good. And Jessica says, in the church, I do think that marriage is idolized a bit, but they don't talk about what Paul said in the Bible about marriage, that you'll have even more challenges once you become married. And it's still life. It's not heaven. And you're right, Jessica, that might have been when your power went out. Dan had a big spiel about that, and I think you're just really reinforcing that. Micaela says, now that I've shared it, I have to be held accountable. Oh yeah, that is so true. So
Micaela, it's going to be the photo inserts in your book titled Handstands. Lessons to a handstand.
Lessons to a handstand.
Yeah.
We can keep going as long as you in the chat are still with us. But I'm just wondering if there's any further questions for Micaela and Matt. And meanwhile, I'm going to ask them just the final question that we had. How can you show up as your fully alive self? What does it look like for you to do that?
That is a great question. That is a fantastic question. I think it's about the community, isn't it? Because that's going up part of it. It's I'm not just living fully alive myself for myself. It's I'm showing up with my life and giving it to others. And we've talked about, being filled to overflowing. And I think that's it. The greatest commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and might, and love your neighbor as yourself. So it starts with that relationship with God, being filled from him and his good gifts, and then understanding, wow, I can love myself, because if I don't love myself, how can I love others? And I think other than just repeating a lot of the stuff that I've said already, but it's about understanding your values and knowing who you are and helping you to go, okay, so what rhythms can I put in place so that no matter what happens in life, I can be steady in those things. And then I'm being filled to be able to give to others. So for example, I know that if I don't sleep well, you don't want to be around me. I don't want to be around me. I don't want to be anywhere near me because I'm miserable and I'm quite no good to anyone. And so one of the things that helps me sleep well is exercising. Bless you. Bless you. One of the things that helps me to sleep well is exercising most days. So if I exercise most days, I'm more likely to sleep well, and therefore I'm more likely to bring life and energy to people rather than be this black hole drain in which all the energy flows out of the room.
And he's out. Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And we're getting some requests. If you guys are willing, both Micaela and Matt. I don't know if
Micaela answered it.
Yeah, you can answer in a second. We're getting some requests for you guys. If you're willing to share your email address, or how can people continue to be in contact with you for further follow-up? I know that both of you are engaged in the Fully Alive Revolution Facebook private group. I know they can both be found there and responded to there, but if there's any other contact information you're willing to give, you guys can put that right in there.
Ooh, what do I want to give?
I don't know. That's why I'm leaving it. You can put it right there. You can say, find me in the Fully Alive Revolution Facebook group if you want to just leave it right there. Yeah.
Yeah, the Facebook, mainly because I want to use that space.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great stuff that happens there.
I only got Facebook for the Fully Alive group. So you guys are very special.
So that's a very important place to connect with Micaela there. That's good.
That's the connection spot.
What about you, Matt? Same, or do you want to also have people contact you in another way?
Well, so I'm on that group, and so probably the best thing to do is, if you're keen to get hold of me more regularly, drop me a message on Facebook and sort out my number or something, because I do check Facebook, especially for the Duzie Live thing, but not all the time. Do it for the Fully Alive Revolution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same. Connect there first.
Same. Yeah. Drop a message. Drop a message there. Let's connect. And
that's a great space. And Micaela, what about you? How can you show up as your fully alive person that God has made you to be, as you relentlessly pursue that?
How do I show up? That's a great question. And I love knowing the passionality statement. I think it's like, I feel like I'm wearing like, I don't know, a badge. I don't know what metaphor I'm trying to come up with, but it's like, I get to like, I have the confidence that just goes into like, I can establish myself. I know that when I come into a place, I can at least show up with this stuff. I could show up with a lot of different things, but I know that like this is more down to my core, that I can maximize, bring joy and exploration into a space. And I think just knowing that first off is actually really, really important for me. And I'm sure for everybody else to just kind of, because it's like there's something in my back pocket. Like I know when in doubt, I've always got this to show up about. And even on my worst days, it's like, it's actually really funny as I think about it. Even on my worst days, when I enter into a place of people, it's like natural joy overflows. And I'm like, honestly, I don't think this is from you, God. This is you just working through me, because I'm not having a very good day. And yet there's something that like I can't help but smile, or I can't help but, and actually we were talking about this earlier, but God a few weeks back was like, Micaela, I'm in your smile. Like this is where you're showing up. I'm showing up through your smile, through your laugh, and things like that. And so it's just those things of, oh no, like I know that even on my worst day, God will show up through me in those areas to remain fully alive. So, and then I just think there's a perspective shift of like, when I walk into a room, I can make a decision of like, do I want to show up here, or do I want to just step back and sit, especially like as me being more the like joyful, and I'm a natural talkative person. It's like I have entered into situations where I go, I don't want to show up here, and it doesn't do any good for anybody. Like I go away feeling like, oh man, I probably would have felt much better, and I probably could have, it brought joy into somebody else's life had I showed up. So just that perspective, I think having the awareness is really important.
Yeah.
And I think part of that as well is just be able to identify what show up looks like for you. I think for each of us to know, because sometimes just because we're there, we think we've showed up. I think when you are very self-aware, you know what show up looks like for you. And there are times I'm at a place and I'm either too tired or I'm too distant. I'm not going to show up in that space. And I choose to, or I choose not to. And I think that comes from knowing yourself well enough, knowing your energy level. I mean, if you're exhausted, you're probably not going to show up. And that's okay, because sometimes you just need to show up for yourself. And that's, I think it's different for each person. Different people have different energy levels as well. So Susie will show up far more than I'll show up. But when I show up,
watch out.
But when I show up, I try to make it memorable. So, I mean, it's a very different process, I guess, for me. And I think for each person, I think the key we want to come to is know yourself. Study yourself. Know what excites you. I mean, the other day, I wasn't feeling really good at all, but I saw my boys at the beach. They had taken off their shirts. They were in their swim. And I had pain in my back and pain in my leg. And it was just like, I don't feel good at all. But you know what? If I run over there and grab my boys and throw them in the lake, things are going to change. And they did. I got better simply by deciding I'm going to show up. And it was an amazing experience. I could have sat back there and went, I'm just not feeling well. But sometimes when you push yourself to show up, you actually get surprised by this joy. And
well, there's such a good metaphor in like working out, because it's always that like leading up to working out. You're like, I don't want to do this. I'm feeling tired. I didn't get enough sleep. I didn't eat right. Blah 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 blah. And it's like literally 10 minutes into working out, and you're like, wow, this is awesome. I'm feeling amazing. I could go forever. Well, depending. I mean, most oftentimes that's the case. And so I think there's a good
help Dan catch that.
The runner's high is sometimes true, sometimes not at all. But I just think it's sometimes a really good metaphor. Yeah, it's like even like just sitting down and like journaling. It's like, oh, I don't want to do it. It's going to take too long. Like, blah, blah, blah. I'm not in the headspace. And then you sit down and 2 minutes in, you're like, oh, yeah, and I'm just going to write and write and write, or like things. So it's just, and that's why rhythms are so important, because it gets us into those getting over those little mental hurdles to like, actually, this is going to make me.
And Megan
do you guys remember?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you guys remember the night of joy on the ship? Well, this was, where were we? I think we were in Guatemala.
Maybe you can explain what it was for those who were not there.
Never been in that universe. Sorry.
we were in a port, and this port was probably one of my low points on the ship. My job was looking after all of the refrigeration on the ship, and there was a couple of fridges that I had to fix, and they just wouldn't fix. They were broken and broken and broken, and I was every day frustrated, and I couldn't answer it. I was more and more wound up, and we had this sail, and there was no water, and we had the voice of water, and we had to ration water, and they could only turn the water on twice a day for brushing your teeth and for flushing the loo. Other than that, no water. And of course, there was drinking water. No showers. Well, I was working every day on these machines, getting tired, frustrated, oily, and there was no way to clean or showers. I ended up cleaning in rainwater. And towards the end of the sail, Dan and Susie organized a night of joy. And basically it was, let's come together, let's have exactly that, a night of joy, celebration. So it wasn't a talent contest, it was let's celebrate each other's gifts. So there was music, there was poetry, I did some juggling, right? And it was incredible. The only reason I turned up was because back so tired and fed up. I was like, anything, I just want to go to bed, I've had a rubbish time. But I was like, I've told them I'm going to do something, so I have to turn up. So I turned up, and I'm feeling pretty rubbish. But just seeing people just, express their creativity, their life. And obviously the room was beautiful, people had made it all lights, there was some food, it was nice, and it's still no showers, so everyone smelled still, but there was an atmosphere that changed, and I showed up physically because I had to, because I was going to be on stage, and fortunately my act was quite near the end. So by that point, I actually had this spirit, my spirit lifted. Yeah. And so the whole story is to say, I think one of the things that I haven't done much at all since lockdown happened is celebrate. And it's something that I don't think we do very well in the UK anyway, unless we've got something that we need an excuse, rather than just going, why not just
right now, right?
Well, why not just host a night of joy, a celebration night, and get your friends around and go, guys, let's do some, not just, let's just live life and just, let's encourage and celebrate.
So good.
Celebrate our uniqueness, and that was exactly what it was. What do you have to bring? What will you show up with, like we're talking about here? Who are you, and what can you bring that will have a ripple effect on others? And I think that's where we've been all day here in Duzie Live as well. How can you be fully alive as a single and show up, bringing the exact place where you are? What are your values and your rhythms? Who are the people that you are connecting together to help you live fully alive? Not necessarily so that you will have a ripple effect on others, but that fullness of yourself does have an overflowing, like this well picture you were talking about, Micaela, this blue water, crystal water, refreshing, that overflows from each of our presence when we are living fully alive, with that foundation of God in our life, and knowing ourselves, and being mindful of ourselves, and journaling or processing with others somehow, that we're knowing and we're learning about ourselves. And this will help us to have that ripple effect of a fully alive life on other people as well.
Yeah. And that was just making me think too, like, and it's not always that you have to look like you're having a blast in life, right? Like grief is going to happen. Things are going to happen. Yeah. And I think fully alive isn't about you're always on cloud 9. You're always enjoying everything. Fully alive is even in the midst of grief.
Yes.
Are you doing things that are feeding into your life that helps you walk through that grief in a way that you're not like completely struggling? So it's like even you're going to be in hard times and that's unescapable, but yeah, what are those things that you can include to help those times be a better learning experience, or a better time of processing, or a better time of
and Megan speaks it out. I think it's about us, this message. She said, I've also been blessed to be around you guys when you haven't been able to show up. And I felt privileged enough to be allowed to be in your space at that time, and think sometimes you have to allow the right people when you aren't able to show up, who can really help you show up. And I think that's true. We have to have our people around that when we're even not show upable, we can still be in community with those people and support one another in the good and the hard times. But the goal is to try to find those rhythms and those people that help you be in that best possible space. And even if we can't be 100% all the time, which is probably, unfortunately, not a reality for most of us, any of us, but we can be aiming towards that. That's great.
Yeah, just a little more of the story of the waterless journey that I think this is a great place to end this on. Was once we found out the machine to create the water was not working, once we found out we had very limited water, we were called into this leaders meeting. And the leaders meeting was all about, it's time to turn around. It's time to go back. We can't go forward. The ship's company will rebel if we go forward, because they won't be, all that stuff. And I remember saying, but I think it's a choice. What if we were to invite them to go camping for this week? What if we were to make this into an incredible moment? What if we were to engage them into a different kind of life, a life that was fun, a life that you got 1 hour to do anything, what if? And I remember it was very risky in that room of leaders.
We had to convince them.
They were ready to turn back because they did not think people would make that choice. And we said, what if we try it? And it was like, if we don't turn around now, we have to go the 5 days. And it was like, believe me, it's possible. It is so possible to invite them to camp. And I believe they're going to show up. And it was like, I had no guarantee whatsoever. It was like Susie saying, yeah, that's a good idea.
I love the idea. We can do it.
And they went for it. And they went for it. And there was so much life on that journey because people were playing the game together. People were adventuring together. And I know there were some of you that had extra stuff to do.
They were sliming together. Yeah.
But there was a moment. And I think that's part of what we're saying when you know yourself enough that when you can choose to show up, even when it seems much more logical to turn back.
Yeah.
But there is that game, that celebration, that challenge.
The adventure, Micaela.
Can we go for it? And we together say yes. And you move forward. And I think there are those moments that we either can sink or swim. And I think too often we just logically say, no, we need to go back and fix this. But what if it's a moment, an unforgettable moment, and we take that journey and we arrive with a better story?
Yeah, and I think another piece of that, as Matt already spoke about, is people brought who they were to that space. And so Dan became the voice of water, and he made an announcement like as if he was the water. And he just took that into a creative space, and we had verses about water or lack of water, or and then people were like laughing about each other. We didn't have that high expectation of cleanliness because we couldn't. And and then that night of joy happened at the end so that we could celebrate that we made it. And I think that celebration piece that you brought up, Matt, how can we find ways to celebrate even little things? We're very much celebrators. We love to celebrate. We find anything to celebrate and the party's on. But if we can do that in small ways, it makes a difference for people.
And speaking of celebrate, we may want to celebrate that our time is over.
Okay.
We've had lots of good comments. This has been really good. I want to encourage anyone that's on, if you haven't put in your takeaways yet, to put them in. I would encourage all of you to go to
join us on the Fully Alive Revolution Facebook group.
But also go to Duzie Potter on YouTube, because there were things, these two sessions have been totally different.
Completely.
They always are. There were things that happened this morning that are just unforgettable. Took notes. There are things here I took notes on. And for those of you who came to both sessions, you are blessed.
Yes, that's right. So your life is a remarkable story, an adventure that only you can create.
We exist to motivate and equip you to live fully alive.
So today in this Duzie Live, we've been talking about unique relationships, especially with yourself, being single and taking care of yourself. May you live fully alive.
As you love yourself, you can do that. Please do that. Love your world and love your God. My name's Dan.
And my name is Susie, and together we're a Duzie.
So live fully
and love fully. Thank you so much, Micaela and Matt, for joining us today. If you have any final words, actions, dance moves, juggling, joy shows, adventures to be had, we're all in.
Thanks, Megan.
We do love and appreciate you. Oh, there's the juggling show. Love it. You are good at juggling.
Quick, stand on your head.
Quick, Micaela, do a handstand. You probably have a skirt on, right? So you can't do it. Okay, so see you all in the
post them.
Yeah, see you all in the Fully Alive Revolution. Oh, here comes Dan. And that's the grand finale we'll leave with. Thank you so much for those of you who joined us live. Thank you for those who made the interactive experiences in the chat absolutely amazing. Micaela, your Fully Alive life. Matt, your Fully Alive life. We have so loved and appreciate you unpacking it. And yeah, you all rock. Okay. Bless you. See you on the next side. We'll let you know what's coming next. Bye.